China just declared war on the US. Over the past week, international tensions have risen between China and the US, again over Trump's proposed tariff plans. But how did we get here? This isn't the first time tensions between the two great superpowers have flared up. There has been a long-standing history for the two nations leading to geopolitical disputes, and this one is just the latest in a long line of issues. However, it is important to understand the position of the United States. America is currently the undisputed superpower in terms of GDP, economic output, and military strength. Following World War II, being one of the only nations that didn't need to rebuild its economy out of a war-torn state, it dedicated its resources instead to strengthening its economy through several avenues. Firstly, it opened channels to trade between countries that were affected by the war. From Britain to Germany, they ensured that open trade would enhance the ties between nations and form a cohesive pact that would benefit both sides. Doing this had the effect of allowing countries to benefit from their comparative trade advantages that would allow them to focus on goods they can most efficiently produce and trade for products they could not easily make themselves. It's important to remember this for later. Second, the US dollar became the world's reserve currency after the war. With the fall of the British pound in the aftermath of its devaluation due to heavy borrowing to fund the war effort, it lost its position as the global reserve currency. Due to the former gold standard nations followed, most trade was conducted using gold as a means of exchange. And since the US funded the Allies with weapons and other supplies, it was able to amass the majority of the global supply of gold. With the US as the sole and preeminent superpower in the world, it set the stage for the dollar to be used as the world reserve currency following the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944. This for the first time would cease to link the world currency to gold and instead peg them to dollars. As the world's reserve currency and the largest economy, it allowed the US to project soft power around the world. This enables them to shape international policy to leverage geopolitical advantage. As we mentioned, different countries have economic comparative advantage in what they can produce. Sometimes this comes in the form of economic output. Germany has its high-skill industrial machines, cars and chemical products. Switzerland has finance and high-end Swiss watches. And so it is with China that this notion of comparative advantage affects how they trade economically with other nations. China is a production powerhouse. It is the world's factory in terms of producing tangible goods from inputs brought in by other countries and has developed a streamlined process for developing cheaply made goods ready to be shipped and sold globally. Another way China has comparative advantage economically is through its domination of rare earth minerals. The truth is, rare earths aren't actually that rare in terms of their presence in the Earth's crust. What's rare is finding them in concentrated, economically viable deposits that can be mined and processed efficiently. And China, for decades, has dominated both. They control roughly 35% of the world's known rare earth deposits, but a staggering 85 to 90% of the global supply chain, from mining to refining to manufacturing. There are a total of 17 rare earth elements that China has a monopoly over. These 17 elements, like neodymium, dysprosium, and europium, are indispensable for everything from the magnets in your electric car and smartphone to the lasers in advanced weaponry, to the catalysts in renewable energy technologies. They're the tiny but mighty building blocks of the 21st century. And this dominance has led to concerns that China may be using its rare earth advantage as a geopolitical weapon. The idea isn't new. In 2010, China temporarily restricted rare earth exports to Japan during a territorial dispute, sending shockwaves through global markets. The fear is that China could selectively restrict or even cut off exports to countries it deems adversaries, particularly during times of heightened geopolitical tension. Imagine the impact on the US defense industry, which relies heavily on these minerals for advanced military equipment. It creates a significant vulnerability. Think about it. The guidance systems in fighter jets, the sonar on submarines, the Patriot missile defense system, all depend on rare earth magnets. Disrupting that supply chain could cripple a nation's ability to defend itself. This isn't just about economics, it's about national security. Over the past few days, it has become apparent that China is more than willing to use its rare earth dominance to fight back against the impact of Trump's tariffs. These tariffs were proposed by the Trump administration at 100% on Chinese goods in an attempt to increase the amount of tax revenue raised by the government and to partially close the trade deficit. This represents a long-standing effort by the administration in taking a tough-on-China stance dating back to 2018. The difference today is that the climate is different today than it was in 2018. Back then, China was the primary target of tariffs by the US, and broadly speaking had more leverage globally than it does today. BRICS is also a new development that previously didn't exist, and the dollar was in a stronger position before the money printing of 2020. Today, China's threats seem to have proven effective, with Trump saying recently that 100% tariffs on China is not sustainable, and he plans to meet with President Xi Jinping to make a deal that would benefit both nations. At the end of the day, this saga is still unfolding, and with the current geopolitical turbulence, nothing can be said to be set in stone for the foreseeable future. This has been chaotic for the markets as well, but please remember not to make any impulsive moves based on short-term movements in the market. It has been said many times, but it bears repeating, that time in the market beats timing the market, so stay invested and stay focused. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.